And good afternoon. This is Michael Harding.
And this is Christina Harding.
And we're here with On the Arts, the show that is dedicated to blowing the lid off of all of these wonderful little artistic secrets that we have going on here in southern Utah. We'd like to make it our mission to make these little secrets not secrets, so everybody knows what's going on, what they can participate in, what they can see. And we've been very blessed this Season 2, I guess I would put it.
Yep.
We've had a tremendous number of guests, and we're going to give them all a wonderful thank you at the end of the show. A shout out. And please know that today we have a very special guest with us. We've talked a lot about the individual artists that have brought this art to us. We have not only a fantastic artist in the studio and an artist who is a dancer and a singer, does musical theater, has quite a wonderful resume as far as performing and such, but also has a tremendous love for the arts and actually takes a different role in the community about how the arts come about. Before we get into that, though, let's see, what do we have going on recently?
Well, recently we just attended the Dixie Electroacoustic Performance Ensemble at Dixie State University, and that was an enjoyable evening. Robbie Matheson was the instructor of those students, and that was an interesting night of music, and they wrote their own pieces. What did you think? What did you think about it?
Well, I thought it was wonderful. These students, what they did is they set up an electronic studio. And by that, I mean basically electronic mixers and electronic programs that would warp the music, warp the sounds, warp the tones as they wanted to control them. And we got to see, there were, I think, in the end, 10 different original compositions. And you couldn't have gotten more different than all of these 10. It was a disparate array of,
Beautiful.
Of styles of music and such. You had some that was very traditionally orchestral. You also had some that, when you listened to it, there was rap. Also, you had some that really defined itself by Aristotle's definition of music. Basically, Aristotle saying that music is everything that you hear, not necessarily melodic.
Yes, there was a piece like that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was really wonderful. It was really great to see these students experimenting with a different kind of performance, a different kind of music. And they were all at varying levels. Some of them had just begun working with these electronic devices. Some of them have been doing it for a few years, and some pretty exciting stuff.
This is a class being taught right now at Dixie State University, and I believe it'll be available next semester also. Is that true?
It's every semester they do have an ensemble that, yes, is connected to the class, but anybody who's got experience with this, if they want to be a part of the learning, they can certainly come on in and work with the students in the class, not necessarily teach them. We'll leave that to Dr. Matheson. But they can participate making their own compositions and such. It's a great opportunity to play with the new hot thing in music.
Yes, our music department's fantastic here at Dixie State right now. It is beyond the talent that they have in these teachers, and I've just been impressed so far with all the concerts that we have attended so far. What a great opportunity for our local students here to come to Dixie State University and take a part of these classes.
And I'll tell you, the faculty is wonderful. We've had several of them on as guests here on the show. And what I love about it is, yes, of course, we talk a little bit about the teaching here at Dixie State University, but they all have these incredible backgrounds that they bring. Some of them have grown up here in St. George. Some of them have grown up in Utah. Some of them, still question whether they've actually grown up at all.
That's true.
But a lot of really fun folks.
And the love that they have for the students.
Absolutely.
The passion.
And that's what we talk about, how quite often amongst us, it's our job as artists, not just to create art and to put our voice out there to the masses.
Although we love doing that, yes.
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier to our guest, I am an actor. I do like the sound of my own voice. I am happy to broadcast that to the world.
You admitted it now.
Well, I also, to all of my classes here, I do teach at Dixie State. I let them know the very first day, I am an arrogant gas bag.
Yes.
And there's always a little bit of that, polite tittering in class and such. And then they realize by the end of the second class,
Yeah, that's very true.
But I think there's a wonderful opportunity for us not only to be artists, but I think it's our responsibility to pass on what we know. And that doesn't mean we have this incredible wisdom. It's just we have a responsibility to share what we've learned, what we do, and our current work with students and with other generations so that the work can continue. That's how it's worked throughout history.
Yes.
Now, to dive into our guest, I always like to Start out with just
She's
a little
smiling.
bit of
I'm nervous.
You're going to do great. And let me tell you, if you want to see her very pleasant smile, she may be nervous, but she is not
She's
by
beautiful.
any means showing it. You can check us out. We are streaming live on YouTube, and we are also streaming live on Facebook. If you go to Radio St. George, that's radio space ST space George, there you'll see a live broadcast. You'll be able to see what we look like here in the studio, as well as knowing that that will be archived. So you can
Forever
access
and ever.
forever
Yes.
and ever.
Yes.
Electronically, you will live on.
She's very happy about that.
To segue into our guest, I just want to share a personal experience I had when I went to Seattle. I spent many years up there. I love Seattle. I wear the Seattle Mariners baseball cap all the time. Not necessarily Arts, but I will tell you I am a very ardent Seattle Mariners fan.
Oh,
and I am not a fair weather fan. I want to let you know I do hang my head in shame quite often during the season. But when I went up to Seattle for the first time to be an actor, I got a tour of several of the theaters by a very good friend of mine, Jerry Manning, who went on to be the artistic director of Seattle Rep, but he was the casting director of Seattle Rep at the time. And he showed me around all of the theaters, Seattle Children's Theater, the Intiman, we went to the Empty Space, and then he took me to Seattle Repertory Theater. And we walked around, he showed me the main stage, and, you know, it was a beautiful, beautiful facility known throughout the country. And, you know, he showed me their black box space, and then we went to the back area. And it was a cubicle farm. There were at least 30 cubicles there, and it could have been, I don't know, it could have been Goldman Sachs or something, just a bank that these people were dressed very professionally, and you could hear the tap, tap, tap of keyboards and such, and occasionally the phone would ring, and you looked around, and there were these Excel spreadsheets everywhere of numbers and finances and such. And he looked at me, and he said, "What we do is theater. I don't know what these people do, but I'm pretty sure we couldn't do theater without them." And I have to tell you, it really gave me a new appreciation for what happens behind the scenes. It's one thing for us to be artists and to bring our work to the community and such.
The spotlight,
But how do we get that opportunity? There are people who are behind it, people who facilitate it, people who organize it, for lack of a better way to put it. Now, I did mention that our guest does this, but she is also a fantastic artist in her own right. She is the chairman of the St. George Arts Commission, and if that doesn't impress you, I don't know what will. Welcome to the studio, Sherry Lynn Davis.
Hi, it's Sherilyn.
Sherilyn, I am so sorry.
Okay. It's a hard name, and it's not spelled phonetically, so it's one of those things. But thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I think what a great way to close out our season. This is our last broadcast of what I call season 2.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Before we'll come back mid-January. But I think how wonderful that you're here to talk us through a lot of things that are happening in St. George.
Yes, I am connected with a lot of things in St. George indirectly, and then just a few things directly. But I know about a lot of the different art things that are going on in St. George through the opportunity that I have of serving on the St. George Arts Commission. It's really opened my eyes to a lot of the behind the scenes, but also a lot of arts organizations that I didn't even know existed, and art opportunities that I had no idea were there.
Yeah.
It is perfect you're on this show. We are dedicated to making sure people know they exist.
Yes.
But tell me, how did you become the chairman of the St. George Arts Commission?
And what is the Arts Commission?
Yes. The St. George Arts Commission purpose is to assist the city and the mayor, the city council and the mayor in promoting the arts in St. George. So their purpose is to promote and support the arts organizations in St. George. The main function that most people know us from is that we hand out the RAP tax. But when I became in charge of the St. George Arts Commission, I realized that the purpose of the commission was much greater than that our purpose actually is to promote and support the individual arts groups and relay any issues or needs that they have back to the city council, so that if the city can help them, then that's what we do.
Oh, so that does not sound like an easy job.
You do what you can, I mean, it's one of those jobs that you could spend your whole life, you could dedicate every waking hour to making it happen. I just allot a certain number of hours a week that I can contribute to it, and that's what we do. But the arts, I'm encouraging the people on the commission this year to get more actively involved in the different groups that we fund through the RAP tax so that we can do a better job of distributing the RAP tax.
Oh, now this is all volunteer?
Yes. We have about 10 members on the Arts Commission, and I probably should have brought all their names, but I don't have them with me. They're wonderful people. But to answer your question, the way I became the chairman of the St. George Arts Commission is John Kessler, who had been the chairman for a couple of years, decided that he wanted to step down. And I was naive enough to say, sure, I'll do that. That doesn't sound too hard. They said, all you have to do is direct a couple meetings and just make sure things keep going. And I'm like, okay.
Pshaw, that's all.
Yeah, that's it. Pshaw.
Well, I won't say that it's not as, like I'd been on it before, but I'm just a little more ambitious. So I delved into what it was, and I don't know. I just want to help. I want to help the arts grow. So
Wonderful.
Well, let's go back a little bit. You said you got involved. I'm intrigued. How do you get involved with this? Do you just knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I'd like to be on this commission?
Yeah.
No. The process of getting on the Arts Commission, there's usually a recommendation to the mayor, and then the mayor determines who's on the Arts Commission. We like to keep a balance, so we try to find people from different genres. Like there's people representing music, there's people representing physical art, there's people representing writing. I'm more of a dance person, but you're also looking for broad-minded people who are willing to support all art venues, because if you get somebody on there that's like just loves music and that's all they vote for or support or put their energy into, then it kind of, I don't know, it skews the, I don't know, in the RAP tax, the way we do it, it kind of skews the numbers and things. So we try to get people that enjoy lots of different arts and are open-minded to supporting all art programs.
How often do you meet?
We meet once a month.
Wow.
So we try to do as much as we can once a month. And we have a summit once a month for the art groups, specifically for the arts groups that apply for the RAP tax, to help them improve their advertising and their promotions and their internal organizations. So we do a summit once a year to just kind of give them workshops and things to help them with that. But it's open to any arts organization that wants to come. But we specifically target those that get the city RAP funds, just so that our city dollars can go further and do a better job.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's always a finite amount of money in
yes.
any area of government and such. How do you determine how you distribute that RAP tax? You mentioned that they can apply.
Yes, any nonprofit organization can apply, and there's rules, and all of that information is on the website. As far as determining it, there's a formula that Gary Sanders has come up with, where each member gets a certain number of votes, and you read through the program, and then you kind of put you base it on a 1 to 10 scale based on how well they meet the requirements or what the mission statement is for the RAP tax. So we have a basic understanding, what the RAP tax is for, and then we see, in our opinion, how we value the applicant. And then
interesting.
Then it goes into a formula that takes everybody's votes and opinions, and it kind of averages them out. There's never as much money as we'd like to give them. So, it's usually a percentage of it. But ultimately, it's the city council that determines which groups get how much money. So we make the recommendation, we do the back work, and then they determine
and then they decide
whether that's what they want. So if they, if we made a recommendation for like $5,000 for this group, and they're like, no, we don't want that. We'd rather give them $10,000 and not give these groups something. It's perfectly legal to do that. But usually they take our recommendation because they value what we do, because we're out there working with them. So
That actually encourages me quite a bit, because if you look at the board of directors for a lot of these arts organizations, and that's not even just here in St. George, but around the country and even going internationally, the board of directors are quite often the ones that like to be seen supporting the arts, but don't necessarily know what it is to be doing the arts. I know a lot of arts organizations that have bankers, and they have folks like that who are on the board and don't necessarily understand the needs of the artistic group. So how wonderful that on this commission you have actual practicing artists
that understand.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. And now, so what are some of the groups that you are supporting right now or sponsoring around St. George?
St. George Musical Theater, St. George Dance Company, the oh my gosh, let's see. I know, like Children's Musical Theater, the Stage Door.
Oh, Children's Musical Theater. That's the ones where they're just I think I've heard about them. They're just 40-minute plays, or
yeah, they're just it's really
just all children.
Yep. It's just
wow.
It's a beginning program, but they're doing good things with what they have. There's some. Oh, I wish I was better at remembering things on the spot.
It's all right. It's not like you're not busy enough.
There's like 30 of them, and
30.
Yeah, that got funding last year.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, the symphony gets funded. Heritage Choir, Lieto Voices, the Chamber Singers.
Wow.
And am I correct that the St. George Arts Commission, you guys are in charge of the art installations that are downtown? Do you choose those, or
no? That is Art Around the Corner.
Got it.
So we work with Art Around the Corner because the city every year has a fund that they purchase pieces of artwork to put in their collection. So we usually have a group that gets together and analyzes and then makes a recommendation to the city. Wow. And then the city decides whether they want it or not. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Now, we have a forum here for our voices to be heard by all 9 of our listeners. I think we're really increasing our numbers.
We're up to 9, wow.
But I have a beef to pick.
Or
a bone to pick, I will tell you. And I picked this with Mayor Pike.
Is it the spider?
Yes. I am actively.
I like the arachnid.
I respect artists. I think it's wonderful that we're representing, but there is a huge arachnid in the middle of downtown.
Yes.
I have to say that does limit my visits to downtown.
Well, I believe that the arachnid does what art is supposed to do, which is to create
and it's
an emotional reaction.
Yes.
It does. You either love it or you hate it. It inspires you or you just want to crawl away. I personally love spiders, so I have no problem with a huge arachnid.
I agree with you.
Now, if it was a big mouse, on the other hand,
you would be
no thank you. I'd rather not.
So
and it's not big mice actually that scare me. It's little mice. So
the little ones that dart everywhere.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my toes just tingled. But no. I think the reason I feel so passionate about art is because I've learned that there's something in art that helps you heal in a way that nothing else can. I mean, you can talk about things that are deep inside of you and you can experience them, but at least in my life, I've learned that the only way to actually progress through them is by expressing them artistically, whether it's singing to your favorite Ariana Grande song or, dancing in your living room or drawing a picture. They're just something that heals you. And in my mind, I wish we could get more of the people in St. George to experience art the way that it's meant to be experienced. You have things like, Dancing with the Stars and stuff on TV, which are great, but to me, I'm like, well, that's kind of like popcorn. That's like, you're eating your sugar for the day. Mm-hmm. And I just love people to, get to more of the fruits and vegetables, which is understanding art at a deeper level and understanding the way it can infuse you and make you feel whole.
Now, you're a dancer.
I am a dancer.
And you serve as a manager of the St. George Dance Company currently.
I am the current manager of the St. George Dance Company. Recently got a little more intense. So our director of over 10 years, Summer Robinson, she needs a break pretty much. So she's like, she came to me and Becky Reed and she was like, can you please, she's like, I have 2 options. I can let St. George Dance Company just kind of fizzle.
Oh,
or,
no.
Could you guys help me with it? And we were like, oh yeah, we'll help you with it. But in taking it on, I'm I am ever impressed with the genius of that woman, because I'm like, how did you do this? I'm like, I've already like got 5 people on board just to help me with the things that she was doing. So, I mean, she was just a master at doing everything. And I wish now that I would have realized how much she needed help before, but she's just done an amazing job. And there was like no way. Becky and I both just were like, no, we got to do this. We got to keep this going.
How many are involved in the St. George Dance Company?
Right now, we have about 12 or 13 dancers that are our core dancers, but then, we have a myriad of dancers that come and go and take class and stuff. And we hope to greatly increase that over the next year. We have plans of increasing the number of classes we have. We have plans on creating a 3-tier level where we have the professional level, and then we have an inclusive level, which is dancers that have danced before that just need a place to come when they want to.
Oh, great.
And then an educational level that is for anybody that hasn't danced. So we're trying to get classes and stuff organized for the new year for, all the levels, and just kind of there'll be changes. It won't be the same, but hopefully it'll be better. It'll just grow. We're hoping to make it grow and be more seen, so that maybe in a little while when Summer's done doing and another Summer's life kind of moved in a different direction as well, because her husband opened his own brokerage. So he, so she's like, I can't do both. She's like, I need to help him, establish a brokerage, so her mission in life has kind of changed. But I hope that, when that settles for her, she'll be able to come back and be like, all right, this is what I wanted that I wasn't able to have because I was doing everything myself. Yeah. But, and it's, we're just all busy, and she's just so sweet. She just wants it to thrive. And so, she'd ask you to do something, and if you couldn't do it, she'd just do it. And she just,
a lot of passion.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I love about doing this show, and I'm going to use you as an example for this, you clearly have a confidence and a real grasp on what you're doing on the commission and such. Clearly, you've got a great business persona. But I'm going to point something out that I absolutely love about looking across the monitors here. And it's a little bit like, do you remember Kilroy back when, a long time ago, you would see kind of the eyes above? That's a little bit what it's like talking to guests here in the studio. But when you talk about dancing and things of that sort, you soften. You absolutely soften. And it's really wonderful to see that kind of joy and that passion for that. I want to know more about that. Let's go all the way back.
Ooh, you're going to make me cry.
How did you get into dancing? Yes. You clearly love it.
I started dancing at an older age. I was probably 15, and I tried out for the drill team at my local high school. I'd taken one dance class for about 3 months when I was probably like 10 or 11. And then, I came from a big family. We didn't have lots of money, so I didn't do anything else. And I asked my dad, I'm like, can I try out for drill team? And he was like, sure, you can.
No.
He's like, you're never going to get on. You've never had any dance. In his head, he's just like, sure, go for it.
Good dad.
And he's supportive. And I did, and they kind of brought me aside, and they're like, you have on your resume, there's nothing here for your dance experience. I'm like, oh, I don't have any. I'm like, I really haven't danced. And they were like, really? So they let me stay on as an alternate because, they're like, clearly, if you went from that to, you've never danced and you did that well, then we'll let you stay. And that's kind of where it started. So I started in small town high school drill team. And then I came to St. George on a scholarship for music, actually. I was the music scholar of our little school.
Was that in Altamont? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. So my senior year, I didn't do drill team. I did the theater company, and they did Calamity Jane. So I was Calamity Jane in my theater.
How fun!
It was so fun. Yeah, this little hick town. I was Calamity Jane. Yeah, I'm a country girl. I'm a farm girl. I know how to milk a cow. I know how to buck hay. I know how to, those are my roots. But, and then I came to St. George, and I just started taking dance classes. I took as many as I could. Because I'd started late, I was like, I can never be a professional dancer, but I just danced. It was like I'd take 12 of my regular credits that I needed to take to get my degree, and then I'd fill up to 18 credits or 20 credits with dance classes, you know. So you did both, but yeah, and then so I danced for a little bit, and then I met Jared, and he has always been a huge supporter of me dancing and stuff. But then we had 2 kids, and I kind of gave it up for a little while until it got to a point where I was going crazy. I was becoming a crazy mom. Yeah. He's like, I don't care what you do, but you go do something. I don't care how much it costs, but you go
I can
find
just hear him
something
saying
to do. Yeah. And so I looked in there was at that time they partnered with the education program that they have, what is it? I'm losing the name. Secondary, anyway, the education program that's not
the secondary education training?
Is that what it's called? Secondary education pamphlet?
Something?
Or anyway, so it's like community education or something. There was just a dance class in there. So I went and I started taking classes, and eventually I was performing with St. George Dance Company. But it saved me in a way. I mean, in a very real way. I went from being crazy and sad and mean to loving life again, you know, because I just felt like my life was over. I was, geez, I'm crying on the air. Get it together. You know, it saved me. And it's really, you know, it's Jared's fault because he's the one that go do something. Please don't do this. So yeah, he's a trooper. He's lived through a lot.
Well, I'd say don't be ashamed at all. One of the things that we are trying to do with this show is to get people to know the artists behind the art, and I think that's wonderful.
And
that
how
you actually
inspirational
feel
to
that.
our listeners.
Yeah,
they can go and join a dance class and
I mean, and dance might not be your thing. Maybe you need to go paint something, and it doesn't matter that you're not any good. It matters that whatever emotion is trapped inside gets put on the outside.
Yes,
so
one of the things I've been learning over the last 10 years, particularly, I'll say, is that whole separation between amateur. We've had a lot of discussions on the show about that term, as well as the term professional. That's thrown around everywhere. Be professional. I don't know what that means anymore. But the one common thread for all of the people, and I mentioned the softening and what have you, is that they love what they're doing. And you mentioned good or bad, and I've certainly heard some singers that I think, not necessarily going to make it on The Voice. That's okay, whether that be popcorn or not. But you look into the eyes of the singer, and holy cow, they love what they're doing, and that's infectious. And I think in dance or in art or anything expressing, let me ask you, I'm not going to let you get away from your childhood just yet. With that, you said you came from a large family.
Yes.
Were you the artist, or was it something that your siblings did?
I am the odd duck in my family. My dad, most of my life was a dairy farmer. My brothers wrestled. My sisters played basketball. So yeah, I'm the only artist. My sister did do. My sister is an artist in her own way. In high school, she did clay pottery, and I think all my sisters did pottery and stuff. But she's a hairdresser. She actually teaches up at CEU. I don't know what they call it now. It's a little bit different because it got taken over by Utah State. But anyway, she's phenomenal at cutting and coloring and making
sculpting is sculpting.
Yeah,
beauty.
And her dream was always to be like an interior designer or something, but she just kind of settled into where she is right now. But she's amazing. Like, I won't let anybody else color my hair because I just won't.
Yeah,
she does such a good job. I'm like, no, I'll wait and look crazy for a little while before. But yeah, I'm kind of the only one that's really artsy oriented in my family. So we always sang as kids. Like, we always had music was a huge part of our lives. My grandma would have us come over, and my aunt would play the piano, and we'd sing. So there was a lot of singing. My mom always had something playing on the radio. But yeah, and we took piano lessons, but it wasn't like a huge part of our lives. And I think I don't know how a lot of people in my family feel about it, but, it's just kind of like, you're spending how much time to do what? Isn't that what you do in high school? And then you grow up and get a real job.
Yeah.
You're the child with the habit.
Yeah, we've been told that a lot. We need real jobs. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you took classes and things of that sort. What style, if I were to say, your style is. What is it? What do you love to do?
Oh, geez. I love jazz. Like like jazz or hip hop. Like, I don't know. I like modern. Like I love the way it flows and the way it feels. But like I like musical theater and I like jazz, and like that's why I'm doing Chicago, is just because it's like, I know, it's just fun.
You're doing Chicago. Where are you doing Chicago?
We're doing Chicago at the Stage Door. The Stage Door is putting on the Chicago February 14th.
On Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it opens Valentine's Day.
Perfect.
It's really fun. It's a fun thing. So, but if you don't go to Chicago, then you should go to the Sweetheart Swing that is also on Valentine's Day, which is also an amazing thing. So if you don't want to watch dancing, go dance.
Go dance.
It has the live band and everything. But yeah, so Carrie Perry is going to do Chicago in February, and it's really fabulous. Josh Scott, who's fun.
Yes,
we've actually had him on the show.
Yep, we've had him on the show.
Fun guy.
Yeah.
Is directing, and Corinne is the music director, and I just lost her name.
Corinne Nelson? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we know Corinne.
Corinne is wonderful. So she's going to be music directing, and
very talented.
That's great. A great style for her particularly.
Yeah,
I think she'll really grab that.
Yeah, she's also in it. So yeah, just really talented cast.
And Shelley Thomas is the choreographer.
Oh yes, I was like, who am I missing? Shelley Thomas is the choreographer. So we're
Well, you've done other things around town. You choreographed School of Rock.
I did. That was fun. That was also with the Stage Door, with a whole bunch of kids. I got roped into that because Carrie's like, "Are your kids going to come do this?" I was like, "Well, I don't really want to pay for it." So,
I'll choreograph.
You know, it's just like, yeah. And I just ended up choreographing, but it was a lot of fun. It was. My kids were in it. Eric was Billy, and Shannon was one of the teachers.
Oh,
but the kids that were in it were just fabulous. Just really great.
And you've done a Dickens Festival for 4 years. You choreographed.
Not this year, but the previous 4 years.
Oliver and Scrooge, both shows.
Yeah, I did choreograph both shows for a couple of years. Last year, I think I only did Oliver because I was co-directing with John Kessler, and then this year we just kind of
took a break.
Yeah.
Yes,
we had too much. I was like, I have too much.
It's time to breathe. Yeah,
Dickens only goes so far.
Well, and they changed things up this year, so they had Tuacahn and
and Vista
do the show. That. So it was different all around. So I was just like, that's a good time to just kind of.
That's right. I've always enjoyed those shows at the Dickens, and I have to say, going back this year. There was a little sadness because they'd become a staple, what have you. But having Vista and Tuacahn do it, there was a newness to what they did. And it does come back to those young folks doing, not that, okay, I'm aging and dating ourselves here in the studio, but those young folks, the kids, again, going back to that spark that they had. And, when they got a laugh from the audience, you could see they were fighting the whole funny kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun, but I've enjoyed those every single year that I've gone to the Dickens Festival.
So wonderful.
So you're heavily involved in musical theater around town, and pretty much
because my family. Yeah,
your
my
family. Now your family. Now you've recently also did a short film with your husband with a competition, a film competition.
Emily Holt asked us to be in her film for the Screamfest, so we were, and I was the murderer. So
you were the murderer.
Yeah, I was. I was the mom that killed my kid.
Well, goodness,
haven't we all been there?
Haven't we all?
Yeah, it wasn't. It's one of those things. Like, some days this just might be me, but I don't know. It has a twist to it. So when you I guess I shouldn't have spoiled it, but when you watch it, you don't know what happened.
Can we catch this on YouTube? Or?
Yes. Okay. If you go to the Horror Fest, it's on there. I think. Well, it might not still be on there, but it was on there for a while. They had all of the different.
Those
films
are great
on there,
with Adam Mast. We're so glad he does those. Yeah.
And he's been on the show as well. We have a great time with Adam.
Oh, Adam's a fantastic person. Love Adam.
So I just got to ask, you've got your kids involved with musical theater, and of course, Jared, your wife, he does.
My husband.
Your husband. I apologize.
What did you just say?
I apologize.
Yep.
Remember how I said the show was very casual?
Yes.
Well, there we go.
No, Jared has done a lot over the years. That's kind of his outlet.
Yeah.
And he's
how wonderful that you
He's
both
just
support
amazing.
each other in your outlets.
We try. There are times when it gets crazy that we're like, you're gonna do what? Okay, yeah, I got this.
He's making dinner. Yeah,
that's how he is right now. I'm like, okay, I'm running St. George Dance Company. I'm doing this for the Arts Commission, and I'm in Chicago. And he's just like, okay, I got this.
I'll microwave tonight, honey. Or McDonald's, whatever. Yeah.
No, he's wonderful. He's always been super supportive.
Oh, good.
Are you the dancer in the household, or are there others that are looking
Jared
at it?
dances, doesn't he?
Well, he dances musical theater. I haven't got him to come to like dance class yet.
Oh, dear.
But, mostly because when I leave, he's watching kids. So it's kind of hard to do things together. My son Eric took dance for a little while, but then there weren't enough boys in, the ballet classes that he was like, I'd rather do theater. But right now, my daughter Jenny dances with Adagio out in Hurricane with Shelly and Taz.
Yeah. And they're both in Chicago.
They are.
Yeah,
they are.
Both
they're
good
friends. So yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Best of Broadway with Taz, and it was really fun.
Now they're doing Adagio has the Nutcracker coming up also.
I think it's on the 15th or something like that.
At 3 o'clock or something. It's
yes,
matinee.
It's in the afternoon.
Yeah, that would be out in Hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Well, I have to tell you, and this is just my own personal experience with this, I've been very ignorant to the world of dance. Mm-hmm. I've always known there are dancers out there, and my grandfather, who was very, very instrumental in my getting involved in the arts with both theater and music, had a great appreciation for dance, but we never really went to the ballet or anything like that. And I had the pleasure over the last 3 years or so, I served as the chair of not only the theater department here, but also the dance and film. And being the chair of dance, I always thought that was really funny because I was like, yeah, I watch dance, but if you check out Facebook, not the body of a dancer right here. And I'll tell you, getting to know the skill that was being learned by these dancers, as well as attending something called the American College Dance Association. As the chair of dance, I went with these students. And I will never forget an experience I had the first year I went, which was 2.5 years ago. And something about Utah, and I'm not from Utah, but one thing I've noticed is standing ovations are extremely common in Utah. And, it's a cultural, maybe a societal thing. I don't know.
We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
There you go. But I'll tell you, in growing up, I never stood for anything. And it was only for the utmost extraordinary thing. And I went to this American College Dance Association. And there was a piece that was choreographed by one of the dance professors up at UVU. And the only way I can describe it was that it truly was an experience where I was breathing with those dancers on that stage. I was swept to this place, and it was just 2 dancers. And they were, the way they used that space, the way they passionately threw themselves into it, I have to admit at the end, I didn't even think about it. I was on my feet. And that was so incredibly inspiring. And I'll tell you, that was the beginning of my love of dance. And I'm ashamed that it took me so long in my life to really appreciate it.
Well, you know how you said you don't know the difference between amateur and professional? That's the difference. The professional takes you to that place where you're right there. You're, you feel it, you know it, you own it. So it's just,
yes.
I mean, we're all a little amateur of whatever, but that's when you have arrived, is when you can take something and you can communicate it so clearly to another person that they see it clearly and they feel it.
And so, speaking of dance, you have the upcoming Light the World Dance Nativity on Saturday.
Yes, we do, and that has been Lisa Clements and her daughter They used to do up in Salt Lake, and she recently moved here, and she was inspired. She's like, I want to do this thing. And she just kind of went out and started doing it.
Oh,
and
wow.
I actually met her at a St. George Dance Company social. And she's like, I'm doing this thing. I could really use help with it. And I'm like, so what's your funding? And she's like, I don't have any. I'm just, and I'm just
You're like, welcome
oh my gosh, how are
to my
you
world.
doing this? So I was able to put her in connection. There is a grant that's separate from the other grants that has specific requirements and new pieces of work or new projects can be funded through this grant. And so we were able to get her some funding through this arts grant. And then St. George Dance Company has some dancers in it, but also has helped with promoting and stuff like that. So it's just been a collaboration, and hopefully it's something we can do every year or maybe every other year.
And where will this be performed at?
It'll be at the Eccles at the college. It will be, it starts at 7:30 on December 8th. And Erica Bryce is Mary. I've never seen her dance, but I've heard she's phenomenal. Rachel Holman is also in it and says that she's just breathtaking.
Wow.
So it's just going to be the story and life of Christ through dance.
Do we purchase tickets online, or is it we buy at the door?
I think you can purchase them at dsutix.com.
Okay.
So you actually go to
Great.
But they're $12 beforehand, and then there's $14 at the door. Okay. So if you're going to go,
get them beforehand.
Get them in advance.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I've never gone before the commission here at St. George, and that makes it sound like, what is it, Tribunal in Harry Potter or something like that.
Well, I hope
I've never done it here in St. George. I have in Cedar City, where actually, and this is how into dance I became. I became a board member of Cedar City Junior Ballet.
Your title, yeah.
And I went in and presented, and I have to tell you, I was terrified. I'm an actor. I speak words that are on the script. I don't, present it myself. And I have to say, getting to know you here in the studio, and also getting to know the artists around town, this is wonderful. I actually think I might not have sweaty palms to that extent if I ever have to.
No, we're not. We're there to help. The whole point of the Arts Commission is just to help any group or organization. I mean, we have some basket weavers that apply for funding. There's puppetry. We have a puppetry guild here.
Puppetry?
Yes, there's a puppetry guild.
By the way, we're taking notes here.
Yeah. I can give you a list of everybody that's applied. Like, there are some really neat things. Like, there's a chamber children's choir that Eric's actually in that sings with the chamber singers.
Is that Rachel Cox?
Yes,
We've had her on the show with Paul Weems.
So fun, And there's other children's choirs, and there's because of the rap tax that the citizens were willing to support.
Yes,
so much art is thriving, and. And one thing that we're trying to do to help support that is to build a building for performing arts, and it's a huge task. And I know they've been doing it for years, but we're trying to convince the governor or the mayor and the county commissioners that this is a good idea, that this is something that can be supported. And the great thing is that recently, when the city did their review, or they're doing kind of a review of the city to kind of reassess how they're doing things, see if they're in tune with the public, and the public actually supported the idea of having a venue. So I think not that Mayor Pike and the city council wasn't on board already, but because they have this data that says, okay, the community wants this, it's just gonna hopefully help snowball something into existence. There's no details yet because it's just the beginning.
Just the baby right now.
We try to stay away from politics on this show, but I'm going to step out of that for a second. Mayor Pike, if you are listening, you have been a guest on this show.
On this so he can hear.
No, he's been a great supporter of our group that's been trying to get this going, and Betty Ariel's on our team. So
that's just so
been
great. This area is so wonderful and rich with so much of the arts. I am just so impressed with the support in our community towards our arts.
All right, this is an invitation out there. I want to get the puppetry folks on here, and we're going to put them on Facebook.
Yes. No, they are a fantastic. They're two ladies, and they do it. I guess they used to do it when the old library was here, and I guess they had a whole bunch of their stuff in the old library, but because they weren't doing it and then they tore it down, nobody knows where it went, so it probably just got all... Anyway, but they're starting over. They're just, and I wish I remembered their names, but yeah, Cactus Puppetry Guild. They're out in Santa Clara. They live in Santa Clara. Their office is at the DeFury Center. They work out of the DeFury Center. Yeah. So, just two neat little ladies. They just love doing puppet shows, and just really neat people.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this happens with every single guest we have. Every single guest. We're running out of time. I'll tell you for this.
Yes, we are.
And I'll ask, we do have a few special things we want to put out there, but is there anything else you'd like us to know about? Anything you'd like to let us know is happening?
just if you have any desire to dance, just keep your eye on St. George Dance Company and see what we have coming up. We will have our season posted by the beginning of the year. I'm hoping to have it all figured out and finalized by the end of December. Two major things that we have is we have a fundraiser that we're going to be doing out at Kayenta on the 30th of March. So keep your eyes open for that and come and support us.
Yeah.
Come support St. George Dance Company. We're going to be doing a full performance, and then we'll have a raffle because we're doing a charity for the Dove Center. So
Fantastic.
we'll have not a raffle, auction. We'll have an auction, and all the proceeds from the auction will go to the Dove Center.
Good.
And then after, we'll have like a dance where people can just dance and hang out
how
and eat
fun.
food. And so, yeah, that's the fun thing we have coming up. And then, you know, if you have a dancer, we always do the Red Rock Dance Festival. And I was hoping that we'd hear back from our company, but we're trying to bring a company in from New York to be our resident company and to run our workshops and stuff. So we're really excited about that. But that'll be that's on the Red Rock. I'm spacing.
It's all right.
In June?
The Red Rock Dance Festival in June. So we hold an open choreography showcase where anybody can submit work and they can win a prize. And
how fun!
Yeah, they win a prize, and then if they win, there's a prize given there. But also it creates they get to perform on a stage. They get to perform their work on a stage in front of judges, and they adjudicate it and give you thoughts and feedback and stuff. So
we should join.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you really, yes, we would love.
I would love to see Michael dance.
Yes, well, I'll turn off the cameras for that one. And you mentioned a little earlier on a website or something like that. Is there an Arts Commission website where we can see a list of what's available?
There is an Arts Commission website. It's not great right now. We're working with the city to improve it and get
it pretty.
Yeah, make it pretty. But it's just part of the city website. So if you type in St. George Arts Commission, it will take you to our website where you can see the different people who are on the Arts Commission and the things that we have coming up.
So great.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us
you're
today.
welcome.
We know you're so busy. Yeah.
We're glad you took
an hour to be with us.
And I do want to take this opportunity. This is our final episode, if you will, in season 2 for 2018. And we will be joining you again in 2019, about the second or third week of January. Keep your ear to the ground. But I have some very special thanks, not only to our guest today. It's been an absolute delight getting to meet you and hearing what's going on.
Thank you for having me.
But we want to thank our other guest, Deward Wilson, who was here last Tuesday, giving us some wonderful stories about being a roadie. Trey Patterson, who talked to us about the world of being a magician. Latressa Smith, a local songwriter who shared some of her work with us and also her inspirations. Rob Goodman and Rachel Schmeling, who were here. Rachel from New York, Rob Goodman, a director, former resident director of Milwaukee Repertory Theater. Rachel Cox and Paul Weens were here in a wonderful conversation about music and children and such, a tremendously inspiring conversation. Kelly Olson, who's been here as a local director, and also Tyson Pulsifer, who is playing the Beast right now in Beauty and the Beast.
And he's in Chicago.
He's in Chicago.
He is. We needed another guy, so he's in Chicago.
Good for him.
I met him last night.
He was holding out on us there.
Well, he might not have known by then. He just recently joined us.
Well, he's moving on.
Your career has just been opened up. And then we had also Dr. Glenn Webb here from Dixie State, a percussionist who works with Tuacahn quite often. Josh Scott, who is the director of Chicago at the Stage Door. And he also is the drama teacher at Dixie High School. Zach Webb, who's an up-and-coming percussionist here in town. You may notice a little similarity to the name Dr. Glenn Webb. I'll let you do your research there, father and son. Glenn is the father, just in case anybody was wondering about that. We also had Ginger Nelson on in a few different roles, part of the Celebrity Concert Series, as well as being a part of the show
Dixie.
Other Desert Cities and Improv Dixie. We had Chewy Lockhart, who's the founder of Improv Dixie right now. Dan Fowkes, a wonderful friend of ours. He's been on many, many times. Local filmmaker and just an all-around great guy. Britannia Barr Howe and Caitlin Mills from Women of Will.
Women of Will.
Up in Cedar City. We also had Carolyn Chatwin-Merced and Wilford Brimley talking about her one-woman show.
Beautiful.
A wonderful, wonderful conversation. We have Dr. Nancy Allred, pianist extraordinaire.
Who has a concert next Thursday, December 13th at the Tabernacle.
And that's free to the public, I believe, isn't it?
Yes.
Gotcha. And that's also with Kawai Yu, who was a
He'll
guest on us, a cellist, and also Emily Workman will be singing with them.
Beautiful.
We also had Gerard Gibbs, who is the head of the Celebrity Concert Series. Chase McPhee, who is a stand-up comedian. We got into the world of stand-up.
He'll be performing December 22nd, too.
December 22nd.
Yes.
Go check him out. A very funny guy. We also had Michaeline Ibsen, local songwriter, with some tremendously inspiring stories. We had Mayor John Pike on this show talking about the arts. Absolutely. He's been a delight every single time he's been on. We had Jane Williams, a local actress, talking about Flowers for Algernon and some of her other work. Adam Mast, who is the name in film that you should really know if you want to get into that.
Who has a thing next February 15th at 3 p.m., A Merry Movie Christmas. They will be having that at the Main Street Theater.
And keep your ear to the ground for those guerrilla film festivals. They are an absolute hoot.
Yes.
We also had Amy and Lily Mae Stover on to talk about being a young person. Yeah, she takes young to the extreme.
I've worked with Amy. With Lily Mae, and I love Amy.
Oh, she's a sweetheart.
Wonderful young lady.
We had Michael Don Barr, the education director from the Utah Shakespeare Festival. Jamie Young, the artistic and executive director of Brigham's Playhouse. And also a very good friend of mine. This was our premiere show, or our not debut. What is that? The first show.
The first show of the season.
The first show of season 2. And that was a very good friend of mine, Lisa Wolpe. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for participating and making this season, I believe, very successful. I've mentioned that it was my pleasure to actually see people talk about art and to, yes, we talk about the logistics and such, but to see how it affects people, not only them personally, but people they know. And a big, big shout out thank you to Sean Denovan, who is the owner of Radio Dixie 100.3.
Yes, he's let us do this. He's let us get on the radio.
And I've mentioned the arduous process, of getting the show. I went to him and said, hey, I was thinking about doing a show. He's like, when do you want to be on?
And we got it.
It happened.
And if you would like to be on our show, you can message us at On the Arts, our Facebook page. We'll get right back to you if you'd like to have an hour and talk about your arts.
And keep an ear out for what's going on. There's plenty going on. Check out that website, St. George Arts Commission. And we hope until we meet again over the airwaves, please keep your focus on the arts.